to Because Evie Said So. Today we're going to be talking about Law and Order SVU, and we're going to be talking about Welcome to the Pedo Motel, which is season 22, episode 10. Okay, so where we find ourselves is that SVU is dealing with an angry mob. They're dealing with an angry mob because a girl named Saranda is missing. Now, we know Saranda, she works at a pizzeria, and that she is a good girl, and that she's Muslim, and that we learn that, not only is she missing, but this is a really sensitive case. And I say that because it was really hard for me, this particular case. But let me elaborate. Okay, so what happened? We understand that Saranda, like I said, is missing. But we also come into the scene seeing that Lonnie is an African-American male who happens to work at the pizzeria that she happens to work at. So we see Lonnie get ready for work, and he's running late. He leaves the building, and the people on the street start looking at him crazy. And I'm like, what's going on here? He's looking at him crazy. For what purpose? So anyway, when he gets to work, he's late, and his boss tells him he's going to dock him, right? So he docks him, but before he does that, he tries to tell him why he was late. And he's like, I don't even care. I know what's going on here. I know things. I know you living at that pedo motel over there. Well, come to find out, the pedo motel is not actually the name of the place. It's just a building where sex offenders reside. You heard me, sex offenders. Okay, so like I said, this was a big one for me. So, like I said, Saranda's missing. She's a good girl. She's a good Muslim girl. And we see Liv and Amanda and Kat and Finn, and everybody's at the scene, right? Okay, so they want to investigate and find this girl. So we noticed that across the street is a biker gang. They kind of like roll by this building all the time, trying to intimidate them. And that's okay because, they doing them. So basically, we know she's 17, that she babysits her brother at the school, and that now, once again, like I said, she's missing. So what happens? Finn goes to Lonnie immediately after they go to the parents, after the parents come to them, after they go to Saranda's boss and ask her, he's like, she checked out at 10, she was done with her shift. Lonnie asked her, did he want him to walk her to the bus stop? And she was like, no, I don't want you to walk me to the bus stop, because she heard what the boss said to him, that he was at the pedo motel. So she assumes he's a bad guy. He's a sex offender. What else can you assume? Okay? So anyway, she walks down the street, as we can see through the episode, and is kidnapped. So, I guess Lonnie's advice would have helped. Maybe she should have let him walk her to the bus stop. But, she didn't really know him like that. So like I said, after Finn and them talk to the parents and Liv, and they talk to the boss, what happens next? They go right to Lonnie's house. Right to Lonnie's house. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble talking today. And they work him. Finn's like, look, you're a sex offender. She was your type. Just tell us, man. And he's like, look, I didn't do nothing. He's like, well, where were you? He was like, I was right here. And he was like, yeah, okay, you're going to have to do better than that. We know that you did this. And he's like, look, I promise you on everything, I didn't do it. And he was like, okay, all right, but I don't really believe you. So you better hope she shows up alive. So we know that a Muslim chaplain, has been working with Olivia and them before. And when he came up with the parents before, he was like, look, I need y'all to do the best job you can do in finding this girl. And of course, they tell him, we're going to do the best job we could possibly do. Look, y'all. let me just get to the point. The point of this episode was that these sex offenders resided in this building, in this neighborhood. And this girl comes up kidnapped. Now, we know that there are activists in the neighborhood, a particular YouTuber named Elvis. And he says that the government and the police do not care about putting sex offenders in public residence areas, which they're not supposed to be. But where they gonna live? You know, so anyway, he's upset. He has his biker gang outside. He hypes everybody up outside to say, look, hey ho, sex offenders have got to go. So they yelling this and they're, intimidating these guys. Basically, you got to get up out of here or it's going to be a problem. So not only does Liv have to deal with this girl being missing, but now she has to deal with this angry mob. And okay, I get it. They don't want these guys in their neighborhood. Look, I'm a mother of 2 teenage girls. I don't want sex offenders in my neighborhood either. But let's get back to the episode. So Carisi, he shows up to the scene. He's being pressured from the 8th floor to make sure that they handle this because remember Liv, she arrested the wrong guy, the wrong African American guy, and she's like getting kickback from that. So they like send Carisi to make sure that since this is a Muslim case, that she does a good job. Okay, so Carisi starts asking her about Stabler. And we want to know too. I mean, he's like, look, the 8th floor wants to know about your boy. Is he going to control himself? Because they want to know what happened when he walked up in the squad room. And she's like, oh my gosh, these people way up high want to know what's going on with Stabler. Well, heck, I don't know what's going on with Stabler. Just a minute. My cup, y'all. Yeah. But anyway, so she says, okay, I'm going to do my job. And Carisi's like, I got your back. No problem. Well, now we find out that Lonnie was lying. He didn't come back from his break to his apartment. He's not even on the imaging. He's not on the videotape at all until after 2 a.m. Well, we come to find out through search and rescue and the cops that they find Saronda's body. So now we know Saronda is dead. Not only was she kidnapped, she was raped potentially, and now she's dead. So now they got to tell these lovely parents of her that she's gone. It's just so much. She was found in a van with her pants down and a blunt form trauma to her head. So the examiner tells him, look, somebody hit her in the head with a brick, basically. That's how they killed her. And they like, okay, well, thanks for letting us know. So they go back and they shake down Lonnie and they say, look, you was lying. Where have you been? We going to get you for this, pretty much. And he's like, look, I forgot to tell you, I went to the park. I was walking around. That's why you couldn't, find me on the videotape. But Finn is like, look, no, you wasn't. Stop lying. And Finn is really working him. He does not believe that this man did not rape and kill this 17-year-old girl. So the protesters outside is getting rowdy. They get mad. Finn goes in and tells him, look, you don't even got to go to work today because you're fired. And not only that, but you better not go outside because you see what's outside, right? So like I said, they are getting really rowdy. Elvis has really worked them up, and the crowd is not trying to hear any of these guys say, we're not doing anything, leave us alone. Because most of these people have already been to prison for their crime. And now they're out on parole. They're taking drug tests daily. They're seeing their parole officer, and they're just trying to live their life. They've already served their time. But because they're on the sex offender watch list for the rest of their lives, these people are not having it in a residential area. So we know Lonnie is a suspect. It's all circumstantial, Carisi says, but we're going to get into it. So they asked questions from the guys in his building. And this one guy says he saw a guy seen running away on, with Lonnie's jacket. They also catch that on video surveillance because, Kat gonna do her job and so is Amanda. Amanda gets that work in and she finds out that, it was somebody running away from that particular area that night with a jacket on that looked just like Lonnie's jacket. So, Lonnie might as well confess, right? So suddenly, all their phones rang. They need to get out of the station and get down to the building because I'm telling you, y'all, the people outside are so rowdy and getting into it that, all of a sudden, this building is on fire. Okay, so now we have a building on fire. These residents have been evacuated. These guys don't have nowhere to go. I'm wondering, are all of them burned or hurt if they run up in there and beat them down because they're child molesters and pedophiles? You know what I'm saying? So we cut to the fact that one of the residents is being taken out via ambulance. He's got smoke inhalation, and they're like, well, where's Lonnie? And he's like, I don't know. I don't know where he is. So then as they go into the building after it's safe and the firefighters have assured them that the fire is out, what do they find? They find Lonnie. Not only do they find Lonnie, but he's been lynched. He's been sexually mutilated and he's been set on fire. My God. My God. Even the examiner told Finn that the guy was strangled and beaten and he didn't deserve what he got. Even if he did rape and kill that girl, he didn't deserve this. They set Lonnie's room on fire, which in, excess set the building on fire. They like, y'all got to get up out of here. So basically Lonnie was tortured. All the residents have nowhere to go after they get ready to leave the hospital. So Amanda, she starts talking to the residents again. And she talks to Frank, who's a resident in that building. And I keep saying resident, so let me just get to the point. They're pedophiles. They're child molesters. These are sex offenders. I'm trying to be nice here. So she talks to Frank with his nasty behind, okay? And he says he hears screams and loud voices that's coming from possibly Lonnie's apartment, which is right over him. And she like, why you ain't called the police? And he's like, the police don't care what's coming over here. He tells him that he heard someone say, Eduardo, light that black boy up. So now we have a potential suspect named Eduardo. The cop car that was left there to kind of protect these, sex offenders had to be called off to somewhere else because they said an officer was down. So somebody, lured the cop car away so they could set this building on fire and kill Lonnie. So the bikes were out there, the motorcycles, because this chopper gang that Elvis is involved in, they're always trying to scare them. So what does Olivia and Finn do? Well, first of all, they go to Elvis's place. And Elvis is like, you ain't gonna find nothing in here, and I'm not letting you in here. So he gets ready to slam the door in Olivia's face. She like, wait a minute, I'm not gonna have it. So she gets in there. He puts his hands on Olivia, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, it's about to go down, okay? And Finn is like, I would take my hands up off of her if you know what's good for you. So he backs down. But Elvis said, you ain't gonna find nothing up here, because he knows that they're under surveillance, because there's a box that's been put out in the alley behind them on a pole, which is watching them and recording their every move. He's not supposed to know that, but he knows that the NYPD is the reason why that box is out there. So basically, he's got an alibi, and a solid one. So now they find out that Elvis didn't do it. So now they have to find out who really did it. So they bring in Eduardo. Elvis tells them before that it's karma, that even if he knew who killed Lonnie, he wouldn't tell him. So, we find out that Eduardo is Eduardo Alvarez. He got a picture on his phone of this boy's dead body. Okay, so now he seems all smug, but that smug look on his face went away quickly when they told him, look, why you got this picture on your phone? So they put him in the chair, they talked to him, and he's like, look, I was just supposed to put him in the chair. It wasn't my idea, So now he says that Louis and a guy named Juan were the ones that actually set Lonnie on fire, beat him up, beat him down. Oh my God. So this just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But what we know through the DNA on the brick that they found, because they eventually found this brick that hit, Sharonda in the head and killed her. But what they find on the brick and on the DNA is the fact that it does not match Lonnie's DNA. And how do they know that? Because his DNA is in the system, and they came in there before questioning all these guys and took their DNA to make sure it wasn't one of them. So they done tortured, murdered him, and set him on fire. And he's innocent. He didn't even do anything. I really feel sorry for him at this point, because this boy, the only reason he was on the registered sex offender list is he fell in love with a girl who was underage, and when he turned 18, the moment he turned 18, the stepfather called the police and set him up. She's white, he's black, he don't want her dealing with him, possibly because he's black. So now he's a racist up on all of this. That's the only reason Lonnie was on the sex offender list. Comment below if you think that, that's kind of bogus that he was on this list. He had to take a plea because otherwise he would have done a lot of time in prison. I mean, is that rape? If it's consensual, if the girl is underage, I'd say maybe 15, 16, and he's 18, but they've been dating and they have a relationship like a Romeo and Juliet relationship, is it really considered rape? I mean, like I said, I have 2 teenage daughters. I'm sure that a situation like that might arise from my daughters, but do I consider it rape? I don't know. I have to think about it. I really do. I have to think about it. But anyway, getting back to this, that's the only reason he was on the sex offenders list for the rest of his life. And we see that his life was taken and he was innocent. Well, Fear realizes this. He realizes he really came down on this guy, and that he's disgusted with himself. And not only is he disgusted, but now he has to go tell his parents that he's dead. Liv is sad, Louis blames Eduardo, and the 3 of them say they wanted to impress Elvis and his gang because they bring their butts in. And they confess, basically, that they did this. So they caught the murderer of Lonnie, but they didn't find the murderer of Sharonda. Okay, so now we got to do that. Lonnie did have an alibi. He was on a train that night. He took the train off. He got on his break to meet that girl, McKenna, and then come back so he could go home. He told McKenna, don't say nothing because they're going to throw me back in jail. So she didn't say anything. So Kat assures Finn, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. You thought this guy was good for this. So you didn't know what to do. I mean, it's not a funny situation. These are people's lives. So not only does he have to tell his parents, but like I say, now they have to find the murderer of Sharonda. So the stepfather to McKenna the one that Lonnie was going out with, he's the whole reason, like I told you before, that Lonnie had a record to begin with. He was taking the plea because he was a parole officer himself, and his brother was some type of high up guy in the police department. So after the parents find out that he's dead, of course they're bawling. They're crying. The mom was crying so hard, I started crying. Okay? This was sad. Not only did they kill her boy, but they murdered, they massacred him, they hung him, they beat him, they took his, they mutilated him sexually. So they tortured this boy. Anyway, we see the officer that they've been set up to work with and Amanda at the parole officer's house. They want to ask him some questions. Heck, I want to ask him some questions at this point. So Roy Eastman is his name. He tells them he finna go inside. McKenna is with him. He tells her, get your butt inside. They're like, well, can we talk to her? He's like, not today, not ever. You heard what I said, and I said what I said, period. So he tells them that Lonnie was violent with McKenna, and he should have went to jail. He said what happened to the boy probably wasn't right, but it was just. Okay, so Amanda and the officer walk off. They don't believe anything this man has to say. You know what I'm saying? Like he seemed kind of shady. So he says, basically they started tracing stuff because they're like, the parole officer don't like this guy. He had him set up. He has Lonnie set up, and now Lonnie is dead. Why don't we look at all his parolees and see if anything comes up? Basically, shake the tree. So they do. And they bring in this guy's name, Anthony. And Anthony has matching DNA to this brick, but not 100%. So it means it's not necessarily him, but it's somebody that's related to him. Now, he says he didn't touch Sharonda. He said he didn't do nothing. But they say, look, you're going to tell us something or you going back to jail. So basically, he confesses to the fact that Eastman told him to set this girl up like that, and that it's his cousin that actually did the dirty work. So he goes down to the ball. They're playing basketball. And Kat drives him down there. He scooches down in the car so nobody can see him, because he don't want people to know that he, he's ratting on his own cousin. His cousin put on the jacket. He was high. He got mad because when he kidnapped Sharonda, she kept screaming. And because she kept screaming, he hit her in the head with the brick. He didn't rape her, so he said, but he did pull her pants down so it could make it look like it was a rape. He said it was Antonio's idea in the whole place. So they pick him up. Like I say, they bring him in. He's speaking. He's like, look, it's not my idea. Antonio told me. But who told Antonio? Like I said, Eastman. So Liv and Carisi talk about that. And Carisi's like, what did you tell me last year? And Liv is like, make it hurt. Because they realize this guy set up Lonnie. So now we have a dead girl and we have a dead young black African American man and a young Muslim girl that has been killed for nothing. They're mad. They're going to make it hurt. So Carisi's like, 25 to life. So I guess he goes down there so he can arrest Eastman. They do arrest Eastman, and Finn is one of the officers that arrest him. The detectives, I should say, that arrest him. But he's not just a detective anymore. So he tells dude Eastman, I don't care who you call. I don't care what lawyer you get. You can call the Pope, but you ain't getting up out of this today. Okay? So I like that because Finn is all about the business. You know what I'm saying? He really lays it out. I really like that. So anyway, we cut to a scene where Amanda and Carisi are talking, and she's like, well, we got him. And he's like, oh, man, that's great. she gets a phone call. But before she gets a phone call, she cannily walks, cannily, did I say cannily? She kind of walks in there while Carisi is on the phone. Carisi's on the phone, and we don't know who it is, but it sounds like he got a hot date. Okay, I'm kind of mad because I want him and Amanda to hook up so bad. Like, the energy between them is so good, and you could tell they really want to, but because they work together, they won't. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, she gets a phone call, and it's about her dad. She had taken a phone call earlier from her dad, and he was slurring his words. I guess she didn't put that together. So this phone call is from the hospital to tell her that her dad has had a stroke. And Carisi's like, well, where's his wife? And she's like, well, she's 25. She didn't want to quarantine with him, so she out in the street somewhere. And she starts to cry. And Carisi, with his sweet behind, he tells her, it's okay. Get on a plane to Atlanta. And she's like, I can't, the girls. He's like, I'll call your mama. I'll tell her to get the girls. You see what I'm saying? Like, he knows her whole routine. He knows her kids. A man that is good with your kids and knows your routine and respects you for who you are. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, he should be with her. Whatever. Stay focused. So anyway, we cut to the scene that it's the funeral or a memorial of some sort. And we see that Lonnie's parents are there. And she's like, the mom's like, thank you so much for clearing my son's name. But he's, still dead. And we see the parents standing there. And the next thing we see as they're talking to Olivia is the parents of Saranda. They roll up, they get out, and they come to the funeral, the memorial for this boy, because they know he had nothing to do with it. And they're like, we're really sorry for your loss. And Lonnie's parents look at them and say, we're really sorry for your loss too. And Finn and Olivia are standing there basically trying to console both of these sets of parents. And these set of parents are just, you could just tell they haven't slept. They just don't know what to do. And Saranda's mom says, our kids were killed for nothing. And Finn says, no. They were killed because of hate. And it's a very touching scene. The scene fades out, fade to black. Dun, 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 dun. The music plays. I guess my questions about this episode is, would you be mad if there were sex offenders that lived on your block? Because we look at it as black and white. They're sex offenders. We don't look at why they're on the list. But do we care? Do we care, or do we just jump to judgment? And should we judge? Like I said, I have 2 teenage daughters. And yes, I want to know if sex offenders are on my block, because I would be extra special careful with my kids, which I already am, to the point of probably paranoia. But that's just me, because I want to keep my girls safe. But what would you do? If you knew a sex offender was on your block, would you protest to get them off? Would you investigate to the fact of why they're on the sex offender list? This had me, y'all. This whole episode had me, because this boy, I'm gonna stop saying that. This man, Lonnie, he was guilty of nothing. The only thing he was guilty of was association with McKenna, who was in love with him. Her stepfather wasn't having it, so he told them that McKenna was raped. This guy got set up. He was set up to put on the sex offender list. How tragic. His whole life was changed, and his whole perspective was changed, because everywhere he went, people looked at him dirty. They looked at him was like they were scared of him, So, I don't know. What did you think about this episode? And don't worry, I'm going to cover Law and Order Organized Crime too. But this one, y'all, as they always do sometime, most of the time, it got me. So anyway, I love you guys. I love you with the love of Jesus Christ. I hope you have a great day. And leave some comments for your girl. Okay? I love you. Bye-bye.